Yo, what's cracking, y'all? Welcome back to the Blockside Recap. Look, we all know the golden rule of the streets. If you see a crusty white van creeping down the block with no windows, you don't stop to ask for directions. You run. So lock your doors, grab your popcorn, and let's see who survives the ride. Let's get it. We startin' way back in 1970 in the middle of nowhere, Florida. It's late night, pitch black, crickets chirping, you know, the classic setup for a disaster. We see this waitress driving home, looking stressed out, crying her eyes out. She pulls over on a lonely road to let it all out, probably having the worst day of her life. But fam, it's about to get way worse. A white van creeps up out of the shadows. A man steps out, and just like that, snatch! She's gone. Kidnapped. No witnesses. This ain't just a random crime. This is the intro to a nightmare inspired by real events. Fast. Forward 5 years later to 1975. In a small town called Brooksville. Meet our main character, Annie Williams. Now, Annie ain't your typical 70s girl. She ain't worried about makeup, dresses, or impressing boys. She's a tomboy through and through, loves riding her horse Rebel and keeping it low-key. But her family? Man, they are stiff. You got her pops Richard, her mom Helen, and then you got the golden child, her big sister Margaret. Margaret is perfect, polite, pretty, does everything right. Then there's the lil bro Daniel. The family dynamic is straight up toxic. We see Annie riding Rebel through the woods, vibing, until boom, she takes a nasty spill off the horse. To make it worse, she lands right next to a snake. She barely escapes getting bit. You'd think her family would care, right? Later that night, they have a guest over for dinner. The dad, Richard, is just glazing Margaret the whole time, praising her like she invented electricity. Annie tries to chime in like, yo, I almost died today, fell off a horse and saw a snake. And the parents? They shut her down immediately. They basically tell her to stop being so boyish and act like a lady. They don't care about her safety, they care about their image. The disrespect is loud. But while the family is playing house, the movie cuts back to 1971. We see the same white van snatching another girl. This predator has been active for years, collecting victims like trophies, and nobody has caught him yet. Back in 75, the family goes to church, and on the way back, they stop at a gas station. The white van is there. The creep inside locks eyes with Annie. He marks her. He starts trailing their car all the way home, and this oblivious family doesn't even check the rearview mirror. The wolf is officially at the door. So the next day, Annie is back at school trying to act normal. She's with her homegirl Patty, and they spot fresh meat on campus. A new kid named Mark. Annie is feeling him instantly. She thinks he's cute, but she's too shy to slide. Patty is acting like her hype man, telling her to go over there and spit some game, but Annie is freezing up. Little does she know, while she's worrying about boys, the ops are watching. The movie keeps cutting to POV shots of someone spying on her. The stalker is literally clocking her every move, learning her schedule while she's busy blushing in the hallway. Later that evening, Annie is chilling in the barn, minding her business, when, boom, the white van pulls up again. It's parked right by the road, just sitting there menacingly. Annie ain't a punk though. She yells at the driver to beat it. The van lingers for a second, probably just to intimidate her, before driving off. Annie is shook. She runs inside to tell her mom and Margaret, thinking they'll finally have her back. But nope. Helen and Margaret are in the middle of a heavy argument, probably about something trivial. When Annie tries to explain that a literal predator is outside, they brush her off again. Margaret even accuses her of making stories up just to get attention because the parents were fighting. The gaslighting in this household is Olympic level, fam. The next day at school, Mark actually approaches Annie. Turns out he's been digging her vibe too. They start talking, realizing they got similar interests, and boom, Annie is officially in her lover girl era. But the happiness doesn't last long. Walking home with Patty, the white van pops up again. It's creeping slowly behind them like a shark in the water. Annie tells Patty, yo, that dude has been stalking me for days. Patty is a real one though. She picks up a rock and launches it at the van. Thwack! The driver gets the message and peels off. Patty, 1. Stalker, 0. But the paranoia is setting in deep. Annie gets home and sees a white van parked in the driveway. Her heart drops into her stomach. She thinks, this is it. I'm done. A man steps out. But wait, it's just a maintenance worker fixing something. False alarm. Annie can finally breathe, but her nerves are fried. Meanwhile, the favoritism continues inside the house. Margaret, the perfect princess, gets her own private phone line installed in her room. Annie, she gets ignored. She feels like a ghost in her own crib. Her little bro Daniel asks her to teach him how to shoot guns, foreshadowing much, and she agrees, mostly because she knows they might need that heat sooner or later. The movie then gives us a quick, chilling reminder, this ain't a game. We cut back to the past again, seeing that every year, this killer takes a new victim and keeps a souvenir. Back in the present, night falls. Annie is in her room doing what teenagers do, practicing how to kiss by making faces at the air, thinking about Mark. It's cringe, but cute. But then she looks out the window. Freeze. There's a man standing right outside in the dark, smoking a cigarette, staring directly into her bedroom. No van, just him, standing there, watching. Annie is paralyzed with fear. She wants to scream, but she knows her family won't believe her anyway. Just then, she hears the front door open downstairs. Daniel yells, "Dad's home!" But Annie panics. What if it's the killer breaking in? She rushes to check, and luckily, it is her dad, Richard. She hugs him tight, trembling, but she doesn't tell him about the smoker. She knows the drill. It's just your imagination, Annie. She is completely alone in this nightmare. So the next day, the parents, Richard and Helen, decide to dip out for a while, leaving the kids at the crib. This is the moment the horror movie gods have been waiting for. As soon as the parents' car leaves the driveway, Margaret, the perfect sister, sneaks out the back door to link up with her boyfriend. She leaves Annie and little brother Daniel completely solo. Annie and Daniel are holding down the fort when Daniel looks out the window. The white van is back. It's parked right there, menacingly close. Daniel ain't blind like his parents. He knows danger when he sees it. He runs to tell Annie and panic sets in. The stalker is basically camping on their lawn. But here's where the kids earn some respect. Instead of hiding under the bed like punks, they decide to stand on business. Daniel grabs his BB gun, my little man is ready to go to war with a toy, and Annie grabs her air rifle. They post up at the window, aiming down the sights, warning the driver that if he tries to breach the door, he's getting lit up. After a tense standoff, the van finally drives off. The kids survive the siege. When the parents finally come home, Annie and Daniel run to them, shaking, spilling the tea about the van and how they had to defend the house. You'd expect hugs, tears, and a call to the police, right? Wrong. Margaret slips back into the house just in time and acts clueless, saying she didn't see anything because she was home the whole time. Lies. Richard hears Margaret's side and immediately decides Annie is the problem. He thinks she's making up wild stories to cover for being scared or acting out. Instead of calling the cops, he punishes Annie. He puts restrictions on her freedom because he thinks she's the one causing drama. Can you believe this? The girl almost gets snatched, defends the house, and gets grounded for it. The gaslighting is now at a criminal level. The movie then hits us with another dark flashback to 1974. We see the predator taking another girl, but this time there's a twist. It reveals that his own father has been helping him cover his tracks all along. So we got a multi-generational psycho family versus a dysfunctional, oblivious family. Back in the present, Annie is spiraling. She's withdrawn, quiet, and constantly looking over her shoulder. One night, she sees the smoker outside her window again. This time, terrified, she actually runs to tell her dad. Richard grabs his gun, finally, and goes outside to check. The family waits in silence. Bang! A gunshot rings out. Everyone screams. Richard walks back inside, calm as a cucumber. It was just an animal, he says. He claims he didn't see anyone. Annie knows he's wrong. An animal doesn't smoke cigarettes and stare at teenage girls through windows. But now she knows for a fact that she is completely on her own. She starts checking every lock in the house obsessively. Then comes Halloween night, the setup for the disaster. Annie, Patty, and Margaret head out to the movies. But of course, Margaret ditches the girls immediately to go smooch her boyfriend again, leaving Annie and Patty stranded. While waiting in the car, Annie meets up with Mark and his crew. They invite the girls to a Halloween barn party. Patty is hyped, but Annie is hesitant. She's terrified the van will follow them there. Patty hits her with the "don't live in fear" speech. Annie reluctantly agrees. They saddle up their horses to ride to the party as the sun goes down. Big mistake. Huge. Yo, so the party was cool, but the ride home? Straight nightmare fuel. Annie and Patty are trotting back in the pitch black, thinking everything is sweet. But then, Click! High beams flood the road behind them. The white van is back, and this time, the driver ain't playing peekaboo. He's stepping on the gas, engine roaring like a beast. It's a full-on chase. V8 engine versus horsepower, literally. The girls panic and split up. Classic horror movie mistake number 1. Never split the party. Patty takes the high road, and Annie gets forced off into the cut. The van is on her tail, relentless. Annie pushes Rebel to the limit, but the terrain is rough. She takes a nasty spill, hits the dirt hard, and her horse bolts. Now she's on foot, injured, in the middle of nowhere with a serial killer hunting her down. She dives into a ditch, heart pounding out of her chest. The killer stops the van, gets out with a flashlight, and starts sweeping the area. Annie pulls a Metal Gear Solid move and crawls, get this, under the killer's van to hide. The disrespect is wild, but it works. He gives up searching the bushes, hops back in, and drives off, nearly crushing her. Annie survives by inches. She wraps up her bleeding hand and limps all the way home, thinking she finally shook him. But when she gets to the barn, surprise, the white van is parked right there. This dude was literally spawn camping her house. Before she can even scream, he jumps her from the shadows. He chokes her out, lights out. Annie wakes up on the ground, groggy, with the killer tying her feet. It looks like it's curtains for our girl, but hold up. Enter the real MVP of the movie, Rebel the horse. While the killer is focused on his knots, Rebel decides he's seen enough foolishness. The horse rears up and delivers a swift kick straight to the killer's dome. Pow! Right in the kisser. Dude gets knocked out cold. Give that horse a medal immediately. Annie scrambles, unties her feet, and tries to run to the house. But the killer has a chin of steel, apparently, because he wakes up way too fast. He catches her again just steps from the door, drags her back, and chokes her out for round 2. When she wakes up this time, she isn't on the ground. She's in the back of the moving van. She's trapped in the belly of the beast. Most people would panic, but Annie decides to crash out, literally. She attacks the driver from the back, causing the van to swerve and flip. Skirt! Crash! Annie crawls out of the wreckage and sprints to her house, screaming for Margaret. But of course, Margaret is blasting music so loud she can't hear a thing. Classic horror movie timing. Annie is pounding on the door. The killer is limping right behind her like a zombie. Finally, Margaret hears her, opens the door, and they lock it just in time. But this killer is determined. He breaks the door down. The sisters run upstairs, trapped. They got no choice but to pull a Mission Impossible and jump out the second-story window. They hit the ground running. They see the killer's white van, which is still running from the crash, and Annie makes a boss move. She jumps in the driver's seat, Grand Theft Auto Florida edition. The killer runs at them, trying to stop the car, and Annie hits the gas. Bam! She runs him over with his own whip. The disrespect is legendary. Just then, the cops finally pull up. Shout out to Patty for calling them earlier. They secure the girls, but when they check for the body, gone. The killer pulled a Houdini, vanished into the night. Fast forward a month. Annie is healed up, chilling with Mark, trying to forget the trauma. She thinks it's over, but the movie hits us with one last creepy detail. We see the white van being sold to a new anonymous buyer. The cycle continues. The predator is still out there, ready to start the nightmare all over again. I'm out. Peace.